The rancho stood at the edge of what had once been a thriving orchard, the bitter wind whipping through gnarled branches and the dry, cracked earth beneath his boots. Fruit trees that had once bent under heavy loads now stretched skeletal limbs toward the sky, their trunks scarred and bark peeling. He ran a hand over his face, feeling the weight of years of hard work and misfortune pressing down. The orchard had been his pride, a symbol of hope and sustenance, and now it lay in ruin, a patchwork of dead trees and weeds. He sighed, the sound almost swallowed by the emptiness of the land. By the weathered barn an old horse stood, tethered loosely to a post. Its coat was dusty, flecked with gray, and its eyes held the kind of quiet patience only years of labor could teach. The horse had been with the rancher through better times, carrying loads, guiding plows, and listening in silence to long days of struggle. Now it seemed as tired as the orchard itself, its once proud stature diminished but still dignified. The rancher approached, running a hand along the animal's neck, feeling the familiar muscles beneath the rough coat, and for a moment the weight of the ruined orchard seemed almost bearable. He thought about giving up. The orchard had been ruined by storms, neglect, and the slow march of bad luck that seemed to follow him wherever he went. Neighbors whispered about his misfortune, some shaking their heads, others offering faint sympathy. "Maybe it's time to sell," one had said, while another muttered about the impossibility of restoring the land. But the rancher had never been one to give in to despair. Something about the silence of the orchard, the soft nicker of his horse, and the stubborn roots of the old trees called to him, refusing to let him walk away. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of earth and distant rain. The rancher squinted toward the horizon, sensing the promise of change even in the midst of ruin. The old horse stirred, lifting its head and snorting softly, ears twitching toward the far edge of the orchard. The rancher followed its gaze, feeling a flicker of curiosity. There was nothing visible at first, just broken branches, weeds, and the hollowed remains of trees, but something in the horse's stance suggested it had noticed more than he could see. He stepped closer, cautious yet intrigued, unsure what the animal might reveal. Hours passed as the rancher inspected the orchard. He moved carefully among the ruined trees, brushing aside debris, testing the soil, and imagining the orchards that could still grow if given care. The horse followed, moving at a deliberate pace, occasionally pausing to nudge at a stone or paw at the ground. The animal's behavior was unusual, almost deliberate, as if it were guiding him toward something hidden beneath the surface. The rancher's curiosity deepened with every movement. What could the horse be trying to show him? Was it merely instinct, or did the animal sense something he had overlooked for years? The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the orchard, and the rancher's frustration mingled with anticipation. He had worked this land for decades, and yet he had never felt a moment quite like this. The old horse pawed the ground again, snorting and shifting its weight, eyes fixed on a patch of earth near the center of the orchard. The rancher knelt beside it, brushing away leaves and soil, and felt the strange shape of something buried beneath. His heart quickened. Could it be a rock, a buried root, or something more significant? As the light faded and dusk settled over the orchard, the rancher uncovered the first hints of a hidden object. It was a box, small and weathered, its edges worn smooth by time. He ran a hand over it, feeling the rough wood beneath his fingers, and noticed markings, faded letters, symbols that suggested care and intention. The horse watched intently, ears forward as if urging him to continue. The rancher's pulse quickened. Whatever lay inside this box, he realized, was connected to the land, the orchard, and perhaps even to the horse itself. Night fell quickly, and the orchard became a place of shadows and whispers. The rancher set the box on the ground near the barn, the horse standing close, almost protectively. The animal's steady presence gave him courage, even as questions raced through his mind. Who had buried this box? Why had it been hidden for so long? And what was the secret the horse seemed determined to reveal? The answers were just beyond reach, shrouded in mystery, but the connection between the land, the animal, and the hidden treasure was undeniable. As the rancher prepared to open the box, a soft nicker from the horse drew his attention. The animal pawed the earth gently, nudging him toward a small cluster of trees where the ground was uneven, roots twisting beneath the surface. He realized then that the horse had been guiding him all along, moving with patience and purpose, showing him where to look and what to uncover. It was as if the animal understood the orchard's secrets in a way no human could, and it had chosen to reveal them now in this quiet, forgotten place. The rancher knelt beside the box, hands trembling slightly. He could hear the soft breathing of the horse and the distant hoot of an owl, the only other sounds in the darkened orchard. He opened the lid slowly, expecting tools or papers, perhaps old coins or trinkets left by previous owners. Instead, he found a bundle wrapped in cloth, tied with string that had frayed but held fast. Carefully, he unwrapped it, revealing objects that seemed ordinary at first: a few old tools, some papers, and a small leather pouch, but their arrangement suggested meaning, intention, and care. The papers were filled with notes about the orchard, sketches of tree layouts, and observations about the soil and irrigation. They hinted at methods the rancher had never known, ways to restore the orchard to its former glory and perhaps even improve it beyond what he had imagined. The leather pouch contained small, precious item seeds, a key, and a note that hinted at a deeper secret, one that the horse seemed almost eager to reveal. The rancher's mind raced. Could this be the reason the animal had appeared now? Was the horse connected to the orchard in ways he had never suspected? As he examined the contents, the old horse shifted closer, nose brushing lightly against his arm, eyes reflecting the dim lantern light. It was a gentle, reassuring gesture, as if the animal was confirming that he was on the right path, that the discovery was meant to be shared and understood. The orchard, once a place of disappointment and decay, suddenly felt alive with possibility. Every ruined tree, every broken branch, seemed to whisper that the land held more than just history. It held hope, guidance, and a secret waiting to be unlocked. The rancher paused, looking up at the dark sky, stars beginning to appear through gaps in the branches. The wind carried the faint scent of earth and moss, and he realized that the orchard had never truly been empty. It had been waiting for him, for the horse, for someone who would listen to its story. The horse nickered softly, shifting its weight as if encouraging him to continue exploring, to trust in the guidance that had been offered from the very first moment the animal appeared. Questions tumbled through his mind, each one more pressing than the last. Who had hidden the box? Why had it been buried beneath the orchard? And what secret could the horse possibly reveal, something that had been waiting decades to surface in this quiet, ruined place? He could feel the answers so close that they almost seemed within reach, yet they remained just out of grasp, hidden beneath layers of history, time, and the silent intelligence of the old horse. As night deepened, the rancher decided to rest for a while in the barn. The horse tethered nearby, standing alert and watchful. The lantern cast long shadows across the floor, illuminating the chest, the papers, and the small box. He could hear the soft scrape of hooves against the wood, the gentle rustle of hay, and the occasional nicker from the horse. Every sound seemed to carry meaning, every shadow seemed alive, as if the orchard itself was watching, waiting, guiding him toward the revelation that had eluded him for so long. Sleep came reluctantly, filled with dreams of trees bending with fruit, of soil rich and alive, and of the horse leading him through the orchard with quiet certainty. The morning would bring new discoveries, new clues, and perhaps the secret the horse had been waiting to reveal. But for now the rancher rested, aware that the land, the ruined orchard, and the old horse had already begun to teach him lessons in patience, trust, and the hidden treasures that sometimes wait silently for decades. The story was only beginning. The orchard held secrets yet to be uncovered, and the horse, loyal and wise beyond measure, seemed determined to reveal them all. The rancher could feel the shift in the air, the promise of something extraordinary hidden beneath the ruin, waiting for him to discover it. Every cracked trunk, every twisted branch, every soft nicker from the horse carried a sense of anticipation, a whisper that the true secret was just around the corner, ready to change everything he thought he knew about the orchard, the land, and the old horse who had appeared when he needed it most. Morning came slowly over the orchard, the pale light brushing the cracked earth and twisted branches with a soft glow. The rancher rose early, moving quietly so as not to startle the old horse. The animal's ears twitched at each sound, eyes bright with awareness, as if it had been waiting all night to guide him to the next discovery. The foal, small and sprightly, had joined them silently at the edge of the orchard, its presence a reminder that life could thrive even in the midst of ruin. The rancher returned to the box, examining the contents once more under the morning light. The journals contained more than he had realized at first glance, careful observations about which soil patches remained fertile after storms, notes on irrigation patterns, and subtle instructions for pruning and grafting trees. Each page hinted at a deep understanding of the land and a careful attention to detail that had been cultivated over years. The rancher felt a growing sense of responsibility. The orchard could be revived, perhaps even beyond what it had once been, but only if he followed the guidance faithfully. The horse pawed the earth gently, nudging at a patch of overgrown weeds near the center of the orchard. The rancher knelt, clearing away the debris, and noticed the outline of what appeared to be a small cellar or hidden storage beneath the ground. The soil seemed disturbed, as though someone had tried to bury something long ago. His pulse quickened. Could this be part of the secret the horse had been leading him to? He glanced down at the horse, whose massive head was lowered near the edge, nostrils flaring as if sensing the same significance. The foal whinnied softly, circling around the horse's legs, and the rancher realized that the animal's attention was no coincidence. They were guiding him deliberately. The hours passed slowly as the rancher worked to uncover the hidden space. Each shovelful of dirt revealed more of the small wooden frame, old and weathered, but intact. Inside was a collection of tools, leather sacks, and jars, carefully sealed and labeled. The rancher's hands trembled as he examined them, recognizing items that could be useful immediately: grafting knives, pruning tools, and containers of preserved seeds. There was also a small, leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age. The writing inside spoke of a method for restoring the orchard, preserving the fruit trees, and even enhancing their growth beyond what the rancher had thought possible. As he read, the horse shifted closer, the foal following, both animals remaining alert to every sound and movement. The rancher realized that the animal had been his silent teacher, guiding him toward knowledge that had been hidden for decades. The connection was almost mystical. The horse seemed to understand the land in a way humans could not, pointing out places that needed attention, marking areas where care had been neglected, and alerting him to pockets of fertile soil. The orchard, once a place of despair, now felt alive with possibility. Neighbors began to arrive in the late morning, drawn by curiosity about the horse, the foal, and the mysterious discoveries. Some came skeptically, others with genuine concern. The rancher explained carefully, showing them the journals and the tools, and revealing the methodical plans laid out for restoring the orchard. The horse remained calm, standing nearby as the humans examined the buried treasures. Its steady presence lent authority to the discoveries, as if confirming that the land had chosen the rancher to carry its legacy forward. Questions arose quickly. Who had buried the tools and journals? Why had the instructions been hidden rather than shared openly? The rancher could not answer these immediately, but he sensed that understanding the full story would require patience. The horse had brought him here for a reason, and he trusted its guidance implicitly. The foal played at the edge of the orchard, occasionally nudged by the horse, a small reminder of life and continuity amid the ruin and the labor ahead. By mid-afternoon, the rancher had begun clearing sections of the orchard, pruning dead branches and preparing the soil for new growth. The horse moved beside him, nudging aside debris, stepping carefully over roots, and even helping to guide a wheelbarrow filled with compost. The foal stayed close, darting between the trees, light-footed and energetic, reminding him that the orchard's future depended not only on labor, but also on care, attention, and patience. The presence of the animals turned what could have been a solitary struggle into a partnership, one that infused the work with energy and purpose. Despite progress, unease lingered. The journals hinted at deeper mysteries, references to a nearby water source, long-forgotten irrigation channels, and even notes about a hidden grove at the edge of the property that had never been cultivated. The horse had paused near that grove several times, ears forward, nostrils flaring, signaling that it contained significance. The rancher's curiosity burned, but he also recognized the need to move carefully. Rushing might disturb what had been preserved for so long, and he could sense that the horse's patience was intentional, a lesson in timing and observation. As the sun lowered toward the horizon, shadows stretched across the orchard, giving the twisted branches an almost skeletal appearance. The rancher paused to rest, wiping sweat from his brow, and considered the enormity of what lay ahead. The orchard could be restored, perhaps even thrive beyond its previous state, but the path required precision, care, and adherence to the guidance laid out in the journals and indicated by the horse. The animal seemed to understand this, moving quietly, occasionally nudging tools or pointing toward areas that needed attention, and in doing so, reinforcing the sense of purpose that now filled the rancher's heart. The evening brought a sudden shift in the air. A soft rustle came from the hidden grove, faint but distinct. The horse's ears twitched, nostrils flaring, muscles tensing with focus. The foal whinnied softly, and the rancher followed the animal's gaze to the shadows at the edge of the trees. There, partially obscured by undergrowth, was the outline of another buried chest, similar to the first but larger and more ornate. His pulse quickened. The horse pawed the ground once, nudging toward it, signaling that this second discovery might hold the ultimate secret, the revelation that had motivated its careful guidance from the very beginning. Night fell quickly, cloaking the orchard in darkness. Lanterns cast flickering light on the trees as the rancher approached the second chest, hand shaking slightly from excitement and exhaustion. The horse stood beside him, foal pressed close, ears forward and eyes bright. The chest was heavy and sealed, but the markings on its surface suggested it had been deliberately hidden and protected. The rancher felt a shiver of anticipation. Whatever lay inside, he understood instinctively that it could transform the orchard, his ranch, and perhaps even his understanding of the land itself. He knelt beside the chest, brushing away leaves and debris, and noticed a keyhole worn smooth with age. The journals contained a small sketch of a key, and the rancher remembered the leather pouch he had found earlier. Reaching inside, he pulled out the key, the worn metal fitting perfectly into the lock. With a soft click, the chest opened, revealing layers of papers, maps, and carefully wrapped objects. Each item suggested care, purpose, and long-term planning. There were grafting techniques, soil treatments, and even hints at the orchard's layout that had never been cultivated before. The horse nudged the foal closer, watching intently as if approving the discovery and signaling that this was the true revelation the land had waited to reveal. The rancher's mind raced. The journals, tools, and chest collectively formed a complete guide, a blueprint for restoring the orchard, reviving the land and perhaps creating something better than it had ever been. But the true secret, the reason the horse had arrived, seemed deeper still, hidden not just in the objects themselves, but in the bond between the animals, the land, and the rancher's careful observation. He realized that the horse had been teaching him more than techniques or instructions. It had been teaching him trust, patience, and the value of paying attention to the smallest details. As the night deepened, the rancher sat beside the horse and foal. The chest opened between them, illuminated by lantern light. The orchard stretched around them, quiet except for the occasional creak of a branch or the soft rustle of leaves. He understood that this was only the beginning. The animals had guided him to the knowledge, but the work of restoration, understanding, and discovery was just beginning. The orchard held more secrets, more lessons, and more opportunities for growth than he could have imagined. The horse had revealed the first layer, and the land would continue to teach those willing to listen. The stage was set for the next chapter, full of labor, discovery, and the quiet, deliberate guidance of the old horse. The orchard, once ruined, now held the promise of renewal, and the rancher knew that the secret the horse had revealed would shape not only the land, but the way he understood patience, connection, and the hidden treasures that wait silently only to be found by those who are willing to pay attention. The next morning arrived with a crisp chill in the air, the orchard shrouded in a thin mist that clung to the gnarled branches and dew-soaked grass. The rancher moved carefully among the trees, the chest from the previous night still open in the barn, its contents spread out for reference. The old horse walked beside him, ears swiveling at every sound, eyes alert and bright, while the foal darted back and forth, prancing over fallen leaves and patches of uneven soil. Even in its playfulness, the young horse seemed aware of the gravity of the moment, circling near the old horse as though learning silently from its every gesture. The rancher had spent the night poring over the notes, journals, and maps. He realized the orchard's ruin was deeper than he had thought. Some areas had been neglected for decades, leaving the soil depleted and infested with weeds that clung stubbornly to roots. Others had been damaged by storms and flooding, leaving trenches and mounds that would have to be reshaped before planting anything new. Yet hidden within the chaos, the chest's contents offered hints of hope, techniques for improving soil fertility, layouts for planting, and methods of grafting that could revive even the most damaged trees. The work began slowly, the rancher methodically clearing debris and assessing the orchard section by section. Every task was guided by the journals and the movements of the old horse, which seemed to sense what needed attention. At one point, the horse paused near a gnarled apple tree, pawing the earth and snorting softly. The rancher knelt beside it, brushing aside dead leaves, and discovered a shallow hollow where the roots had been eaten away by pests. Buried beneath was a small bundle of old tools, similar to those found in the chest, left as if anticipating his arrival. The realization sent a shiver down his spine. The horse was not merely observing, it was leading him to discoveries hidden for decades. As he worked, the rancher could hear the distant hum of the nearby town, the occasional shout of a neighbor, and the soft clink of tools against wood. Some had begun to arrive, curious about the animals and the activity in the orchard. Their questions were cautious at first. "You really think you can fix all this?" one man asked, eyeing the broken branches and uneven ground. Another muttered about the cost and effort involved. The rancher smiled faintly, nodding, but said little. The truth was, he didn't yet know if he could restore the orchard fully, but he trusted the guidance of the old horse, and that alone gave him determination. As days passed, the orchard began to reveal more of its hidden challenges. Certain sections resisted improvement. Soil that seemed fertile on the surface proved compacted beneath, making planting nearly impossible. Water channels, long blocked by debris, had to be reopened and carefully managed. The old horse moved steadily among the trees, occasionally nudging the rancher toward problem areas, pawing at the earth or lifting a hoof to indicate spots that needed closer attention. The foal followed closely, mimicking the horse's movements in its small, tentative way, and the rancher realized the animal's partnership extended beyond guidance. It was a lesson in observation, patience, and adaptation. One afternoon, a sudden storm swept across the orchard, bringing wind, rain, and the threat of more damage. The rancher dashed among the trees, holding tarps over partially cleared soil, securing loose tools, and guiding the animals to sheltered areas. The old horse stood steady beneath a barn awning, calm and unwavering, while the foal huddled close, shivering but safe. After the storm passed, the rancher assessed the damage. Some trees had been broken, small mounds of soil washed away, and certain areas would need to be replanted. But the storm had also revealed something new, a set of stones, partially uncovered along the edge of the grove, suggesting an old foundation or hidden cellar he had yet to explore. The horse's ears twitched as he approached the stones, snorting softly, signaling that the next discovery awaited. The discovery of the stones sparked a flurry of activity. The rancher began carefully excavating, uncovering remnants of a small building foundation long forgotten. Within it, he found tools, jars, and bits of parchment that hinted at experiments with soil enrichment, grafting techniques, and irrigation systems. The materials suggested that someone before him had painstakingly developed a method for creating a thriving orchard, anticipating a need to preserve their work for the future. The horse pawed at the ground, nudging toward specific jars, and the rancher followed, realizing that the animal seemed to know which items were crucial, which could transform his efforts into something sustainable and successful. Meanwhile, tension grew among the neighbors and townsfolk. Some had begun offering advice, unsolicited and often contradictory, while others doubted the rancher's efforts entirely. "You'll never get it back to what it was," a neighbor muttered, eyeing the cracked trees and scattered tools. Another warned about investing too much effort in land that had proven unforgiving. The rancher listened, nodding politely, but he trusted the guidance of the animals and the wisdom embedded in the journals and chest. He had learned to follow the quiet, deliberate lessons of observation rather than being swayed by doubt or speculation. Within the orchard, subtle mysteries continued to emerge. The old horse led him to sections where water seemed to linger unnaturally, pooling in depressions that had once been invisible. Removing the debris and stones revealed buried irrigation channels, cleverly designed to distribute water evenly across the orchard. The journals had hinted at these channels, but without the horse's guidance, the rancher might never have discovered them. He marveled at the animal's intuition, how it seemed to perceive the hidden patterns of the land, guiding him to correct the imbalances and improve the soil's vitality. Evenings were spent mapping progress and planning next steps. The rancher worked with meticulous care, noting which trees could be saved, which required grafting, and which areas needed new planting. The foal rested nearby, occasionally nudging at the tools or sniffing at bundles of soil and compost, learning in its own quiet way. The horse stood guard, eyes scanning the orchard, muscles taut but calm, a silent reminder that the land had its own rhythm and required patience to restore. Together, the three formed a unique partnership: human knowledge, animal instinct, and the hidden wisdom of the orchard converging in deliberate, careful action. One morning, the rancher noticed a new development. A small opening in the soil, previously unnoticed, revealed the tip of a wooden box partially buried beneath the roots of a dead tree. The horse pawed at the earth, stamping a hoof lightly, signaling him to focus there. Carefully, he unearthed the box, finding inside more tools, a set of small, hand-drawn maps, and a collection of seeds preserved with care. The maps detailed additional planting areas, noting which soil types were best for specific fruit trees and indicating a path for irrigation that would maximize yield. The rancher realized the orchard's restoration was not simply about clearing land. It was about understanding a system, a design left behind by someone who had loved the land deeply. But even as progress was made, challenges persisted. Pests threatened young seedlings, heavy rains washed away prepared soil, and stubborn roots resisted removal. The rancher sometimes felt overwhelmed, yet he could not ignore the subtle guidance of the old horse. Each time he despaired, the animal's calm presence, steady movements, and intuitive gestures reminded him to slow down, observe carefully, and act deliberately. The foal, growing more confident with each day, mirrored the horse's behavior, adding a sense of continuity and hope. The animal's influence was becoming almost like a living compass, guiding him through both the physical labor and the larger decisions about how to restore the orchard fully. Tensions outside the orchard also mounted. A neighboring rancher approached with skepticism, questioning the wisdom of investing so much time and effort in what appeared to be a hopeless project. "You're wasting your life on dead trees and dusty soil," he said sharply. But the rancher, calm and unwavering, replied only with quiet focus on his work. He knew that the truth of the orchard could not be judged by appearances alone. The horse pawed the ground near the skeptical neighbor, nostrils flaring as if issuing a subtle warning. The rancher smiled faintly, understanding that the horse's presence alone carried authority and lent weight to the silent, unfolding story of the orchard. As days turned into weeks, the orchard began to transform. Barely perceptible changes gave way to noticeable improvement. The soil became richer. The grafted branches began to take, and water flowed more evenly through the carefully restored channels. The horse and foal moved confidently among the trees, demonstrating an uncanny understanding of what required attention. And yet the ultimate secret hinted at in the chest, and guided by the horse, remained just out of reach, a mystery that fueled the rancher's determination and curiosity. By nightfall, as the rancher surveyed the orchard from the barn's edge, he realized that this was more than restoration. It was a partnership between human effort, animal wisdom, and the hidden knowledge left behind by those who had come before. The orchard's true potential was only beginning to emerge, and the horse, silent and watchful, continued to guide him toward the next revelation. The land, the animals, and the hidden treasures were converging in ways that promised to transform not only the orchard, but the rancher's understanding of patience, diligence, and the unseen forces that shape life itself. The stage was now set for discoveries that would challenge everything he thought he knew, demanding careful observation, trust in the horse's guidance, and an unwavering belief that even in ruin, great secrets could be found. The tension in the orchard was palpable. Every shadow, every rustle, every pawing hoof suggested that the next revelation was close, and that the old horse was leading him exactly where he needed to be. The morning air was heavy with anticipation, and the orchard seemed to hold its breath. The rancher moved among the trees with deliberate care, heart pounding as he traced the paths he had begun to clear weeks ago. Each section told a story of progress, but also of lingering challenges. Soil that had seemed fertile now held stubborn rocks, roots twisted in tangled knots beneath the surface, and patches of weeds resisted removal with an almost defiant persistence. The old horse walked beside him, ears swiveling constantly, nostrils flaring as though smelling something beyond human perception. The foal followed closely, its young energy a stark contrast to the methodical patience of the elder animal. As he worked, the rancher noticed subtle changes in the orchard's atmosphere. A certain hush had fallen, as if the land itself were waiting for something to emerge. The horse led him to a section near the grove where he had first discovered the buried chest. There, the earth felt different, warmer, heavier, and strangely alive. The horse pawed the ground, snorting softly, eyes fixed on a cluster of roots tangled around a mound of dirt. The rancher knelt beside it, brushing away leaves and debris, and uncovered the tip of another box, smaller but heavier than the previous one. The sensation was electric. He felt as though the orchard itself were urging him forward, demanding attention to a secret long kept. The neighborhood, once skeptical, had begun to watch with curiosity bordering on awe. People whispered about the rancher's progress, some offering tentative help, others voicing doubts. Yet no one understood the subtle guidance the old horse provided. Its movements were precise, almost knowing, and the rancher realized that without it, the orchard's hidden secrets might never have come to light. As he dug, he could feel the tension mounting. The deeper the box was buried, the more urgent the feeling became. Something important was waiting beneath the roots, and both he and the horse seemed aware that the moment of revelation was near. When the chest was finally unearthed, the rancher's hands trembled. The wood was worn and darkened by years underground, and the lock was rusted, though surprisingly intact. The horse nudged him gently with its nose, as though confirming that he was ready. Slowly, he pried it open, revealing a collection of journals, tools, and small, carefully wrapped objects. Among them were notes on advanced grafting techniques, maps of hidden irrigation channels, and diagrams detailing sections of the orchard he had yet to explore. The depth of preparation was astonishing. Whoever had buried these items had clearly planned for someone to discover them, leaving behind knowledge intended to guide the land back to life. The rancher's excitement was tempered by anxiety. The orchard had already revealed so much, but he could feel that the true secret, what the horse had come to show him, was still hidden. He followed the maps and notes, guided by the horse, uncovering soil patches that needed enrichment and areas where trees could be grafted to increase yield. The foal moved between his legs, stepping lightly, almost mimicking the horse's movements. There was a rhythm to the work, a delicate balance between labor, observation, and instinct. Yet the tension remained. Each discovery seemed to hint at something larger, something the orchard had kept concealed until the right moment. Storm clouds began gathering on the horizon, a low, rolling gray that threatened sudden rain. The rancher paused, scanning the orchard for vulnerable areas. He realized that any sudden downpour could undo the careful work he had accomplished, washing away topsoil, weakening the young grafts, and erasing progress. The horse pawed the ground, lifting its head to watch the sky. It was as though the animal understood the danger before the rancher could calculate it. He moved quickly to shore up irrigation channels, reinforcing mounds of soil and securing young trees against the wind. The foal stayed close, ears flicking nervously at the distant rumble of thunder. When the first drops began to fall, the rancher felt a surge of urgency. Rain pelted the orchard in sheets, turning dry soil to slick mud. Branches groaned under the weight of water, and the wind threatened to bend the newly supported trees beyond their limits. The rancher worked tirelessly, propping fragile limbs, reinforcing soil mounds, and carefully adjusting channels to control the flow of water. The horse remained calm, standing beside him, ready to guide or steady him when necessary. The foal huddled nearby, occasionally nudging at him as if to remind him they were in this together. After the storm passed, the orchard was transformed yet again. Some sections had suffered minor damage, but other areas had been revealed in unexpected ways. The rain had uncovered roots, exposed hidden stones, and washed away debris to reveal new patterns in the soil. Among these revelations, the rancher discovered a hidden path that led to a dense thicket at the orchard's edge. The horse stopped at the entrance, ears forward, nostrils flaring, signaling that the next secret waited within. A thrill of anticipation ran through the rancher. This path had been concealed for decades, and its significance was clear in the horse's insistence. As he ventured along the path, the rancher encountered remnants of old structures, long forgotten, partially hidden by overgrown bush and fallen trees. Foundations, scattered bricks, and rusted tools suggested that someone had built here with care and intention. Each discovery added layers to the story he was beginning to understand. The orchard had not simply been abandoned. It had been nurtured carefully, planned with foresight, and then deliberately left for a future caretaker. The realization deepened his sense of purpose. The old horse continued to guide him, stepping deliberately, sniffing at roots, and occasionally pawing at the earth to indicate spots worthy of attention. The foal, growing bolder with each step, mirrored the horse's behavior, nudging at tools, circling around the rancher, and occasionally stopping to paw at the ground. Their presence brought a strange sense of rhythm and reassurance to the work. The rancher realized that the animals were not just companions. They were active participants, offering insight and guidance in ways that no human assistant could. The orchard itself seemed to respond to their presence, the soil loosening under careful attention, new shoots appearing where the ground had been disturbed, and the air carrying the faint scent of growth. Even as progress unfolded, the tension mounted. Each discovery suggested more hidden elements, treasures, journals, tools that might provide the final pieces of the orchard's puzzle. The rancher understood that the horse had been leading him not simply to labor, but to revelation. Somewhere ahead, the orchard held a secret that would explain everything: the careful planning, the hidden chest, the advanced techniques, and the subtle guidance of the animals. The rancher could feel it approaching, as if the land itself were holding a breath, waiting for him to uncover the truth. By nightfall, the rancher had returned to the barn, exhausted but restless. The lantern cast flickering shadows across the floor, illuminating the journals, maps, and remaining tools. The horse stood beside him, steady and calm, while the foal rested quietly nearby. The orchard lay in darkness, silent except for the distant whisper of the wind through twisted branches. The rancher could sense the climax of the journey approaching, the moment when the orchard would reveal its deepest secret, and the purpose of the old horse's guidance would become clear. He could feel it in the weight of the chest, the rhythm of the animals, and the patterns revealed by the soil. The orchard's story was not complete, but the tension of the unknown, the anticipation of revelation, and the collaboration between man and horse had built to a near unbearable point. Every rustle, every hoofstep, and every shadow seemed pregnant with meaning. The rancher's heart pounded in his chest, knowing that the next moment could change everything he thought he knew about the orchard, the animals, and the legacy that had been entrusted to him. The night stretched on, filled with quiet expectation. The horse pawed at the ground, nostrils flaring, ears fixed on the grove, while the foal nudged his arm gently, as though urging him onward. The chest, the journals, the hidden pathways, and the carefully uncovered soil had prepared him, but the ultimate revelation was still concealed. The orchard had built its tension carefully over decades, and now, guided by the patient and wise presence of the old horse, the rancher was on the cusp of understanding what had been waiting for him all along. The story was poised at the edge of discovery. Every tool, every note, every movement of the horse hinted at the secret that would finally tie together the orchard's ruin, the buried knowledge, and the hidden potential waiting to bloom. The rancher knew that patience, observation, and trust would be required to reach the climax, and that the revelation would demand more than skill or labor. It would demand insight, courage, and a willingness to see the orchard and its guardians with new eyes. Dawn broke over the orchard with a soft golden light, the mist curling gently around the gnarled branches and scattered leaves. The rancher stood at the edge of the grove, his eyes following the old horse as it moved with quiet purpose among the trees. The foal pranced alongside, growing braver with each step, and the chest of journals, tools, and seeds lay open nearby, a tangible record of the orchard's hidden history. Today felt different, charged with a sense of inevitability, as if the land itself were ready to reveal its long-held secret. The old horse paused at a section of the orchard that had seemed ordinary before, its large hooves pressing against the soil with intention. The rancher approached cautiously, noticing for the first time how the ground under the horse's hoofs appeared softer, almost hollow. He knelt to inspect it and discovered a small wooden hatch, camouflaged by moss and roots, its edges worn smooth by decades of neglect. His heart raced. This was the final piece of the puzzle. The horse nudged him gently with its nose, then stepped back, as though giving him space to uncover what had been buried for so long. With trembling hands, the rancher pried open the hatch. Inside was a small, carefully constructed underground chamber, lined with timber and filled with crates, jars, and bundles of parchment. Dust swirled in the morning air as he lifted each item, revealing the orchard's deepest secrets. There were journals detailing the land's fertility patterns, advanced grafting techniques, and even notes on rare fruit varieties that had once thrived here. Seeds, perfectly preserved, promised the revival of species long thought lost. And among these treasures was a letter yellowed with age, explaining the vision of the orchard's original caretaker, a meticulous plan for sustainable growth that relied not just on labor, but on observation, patience, and intuition, the very qualities embodied by the old horse. The realization struck the rancher like a thunderclap. The horse had not been a mere companion or guide. It had been a living guardian of this knowledge, silently ensuring that the orchard's potential would eventually be realized. Every pawing motion, every nudge toward hidden items, every moment of still observation had been part of a careful orchestration. The foal watched with wide eyes, mimicking the horse's calm presence, learning lessons that went far beyond simple play. The orchard, the animals, and the hidden treasures now formed a complete story, a legacy of patience, care, and respect for the land. As he carefully arranged the contents of the chamber, the rancher felt a profound sense of connection to those who had come before him. The journals spoke not only of soil and trees, but of a philosophy of stewardship and understanding that the land and its creatures were partners in the work of creation. The orchard had been abandoned, yes, but it had also been protected. Its secrets preserved until the right person arrived, guided by the horse who knew what to reveal and when. Every step of the journey, every challenge and small victory had led to this moment of clarity. Outside the chamber, the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the orchard. The damaged trees, cleared soil, and newly grafted branches glowed in the light, proof of the rancher's tireless effort and the wisdom embedded in the chest and journals. The foal pranced among the roots, testing its legs on soft earth and learning the rhythms of the land. The old horse stood vigilant, ears flicking, eyes scanning the horizon, a sentinel who had fulfilled its role. For the first time, the rancher felt a sense of completion, not just in the orchard's restoration, but in the fulfillment of a promise that had existed long before he had set foot here. Word of the discoveries began to spread through the nearby town. Skeptics and doubters arrived first, curious to see if the tales of the orchard's hidden treasures were true. When they witnessed the careful restoration, the flourishing grafts, and the meticulous irrigation systems revealed through the journals and maps, even the harshest critics were silenced. People marveled at the old horse's role, recognizing the intelligence, intuition, and guidance it had provided. Children followed the foal, laughing and learning, while the rancher explained the significance of each buried item, each carefully preserved technique, and the lessons the land itself had taught him. As days turned into weeks, the orchard transformed fully. Bare patches of soil were now covered with young shoots. Trees once thought lost now bore signs of recovery, and irrigation channels channeled water evenly across the land. The foal had grown stronger and more confident, moving with a sense of purpose instilled by the old horse's example. The animals had become teachers, showing the rancher and the nearby community the value of patience, observation, and trust. The orchard was no longer just a project. It had become a living classroom, a testament to what careful guidance and perseverance could achieve. The rancher took a moment one evening to walk through the orchard alone, the golden light of sunset casting a warm glow across the groves. The air smelled of damp earth and fresh growth, a tangible reminder of months of labor and discovery. He paused by one of the largest grafted trees, running his hand along the sturdy trunk. The journals, seeds, and hidden chest had provided knowledge, but the animals had provided understanding. Together, they had unlocked not only the orchard's potential, but also the rancher's own capacity for vision and stewardship. Neighbors who had once doubted began offering help willingly, bringing tools, seedlings, and energy to the work. There was a sense of shared purpose now, a community awakened to the possibilities that careful attention and respect for the land could create. The rancher taught them what he had learned from the journals, from the animals, and from the orchard itself. Each graft, each carefully cleared plot, became a lesson in patience and resilience. The orchard was alive in ways that reached beyond fruit and soil. It was alive in the spirit of those who nurtured it, guided by the wisdom of generations past. The foal, now almost fully grown, trotted alongside the old horse as the rancher moved through the orchard. The partnership was complete. Human knowledge, animal instinct, and the orchard's hidden legacy converged in harmony. The once ruined trees now stood tall, their branches stretching toward the sky, ready to bear fruit once again. The secret that had been carefully guarded through decades of neglect had finally been revealed, and with it, a profound lesson that the greatest treasures are often hidden, requiring patience, attention, and a willingness to trust those who guide us in unseen ways. By the end of the season, the orchard had achieved a transformation that seemed almost miraculous. Blossoms appeared on trees that had not borne fruit in decades. The soil retained its moisture perfectly, and every graft showed promise of a fruitful future. The chest of journals and tools was returned to a safe corner of the barn, ready to guide future generations, while the old horse stood quietly beside the rancher, the guardian of a secret now fully revealed. The foal, energetic and curious, had learned the lessons of observation, patience, and guidance, promising continuity in the orchard's care for years to come. The rancher stood at the edge of the orchard one last time before night fell, looking across the rows of trees, the gentle hills beyond, and the animals that had taught him so much. The journey had been long, fraught with obstacles, doubt, and relentless work, but the reward was more than fruit and soil. It was understanding, partnership, and the revelation of a carefully hidden legacy. The orchard was alive again, not just in its branches and leaves, but in the knowledge it carried, the animals that guided it, and the humans who had learned to listen. In that quiet evening light, the rancher understood the true lesson the old horse had revealed, that care, patience, and observation could uncover the most hidden secrets, transform what seemed lost, and create something lasting and meaningful. The orchard's future was secure, the animals had fulfilled their roles, and the secret that had remained for decades was finally known. The land had spoken and the rancher had listened. And so, the orchard stood restored, a living testament to perseverance, guidance, and the quiet wisdom of an old horse who had kept a secret for decades until the right time, the right hands, and the right heart had arrived to uncover it. The end.